Panther people, what up? Carolina Panthers lose. Dave Canales says that he's sticking with Bryce Young. Oh, my God. Oh. All right. I didn't think the Panthers would win. They lose 26-3 to the Los Angeles Chargers, by the way. But I'll say this. That game was 2 words. Business trip. Jim Harbaugh, who, Carolina Panthers, did not answer his calls to be the head coach of the Carolina Panthers. He came to Charlotte, Bank of America Stadium. Home opener. 30th anniversary of the team. Jake Delhomme, Jonathan Stewart in the building wearing their Carolina Panther all whites. And it was a business trip for the Los Angeles Chargers. They rushed the dang ball down our throats, like everyone knows you can now because Derek Brown not playing football for the Carolina Panthers this year. And that's what it's going to look like for the defense. Trying to stop anybody on the run. Justin Herbert was a game manager. Quentin Johnson, 2 touchdowns in the end zone, beating J.C. Horn. They passed when they had to, but they ran any time they could. And if the pass lanes opened up and our defense got beaten up, they broke our back with the pass. Wasn't a blowout game again, 26-3. So you can say that's some improvement. Defense came to play. I can sense that. Adam Thielen came to play too. He was fired up. Talk about that a little later. But it was a business trip for the Los Angeles Chargers. You know, they talk about the West Coast team coming to the East Coast, 1 o'clock kickoff. So it is a 10 a.m. or 11 a.m., 10 a.m. kickoff for them. They didn't show any signs of any jet lag. As for the defense, they did the best they could without Derek Brown. J.C. Horn picking off Justin Herbert, giving the Panthers some life in great field position, but the offense lets them down, which has been a theme for the Panthers for quite some time, even before Bryce Young, let's be honest. But the defense did what they could, and they lived up-ish. They just didn't give up. Their backs weren't broken, but, you know, it's hard to continuously be out there for the last couple of years because your offense cannot stay on the field. And you're continuously being put out there. There's not as much oxygen and IV they can pump your body with that'll keep you sustained for an entire game, especially when it's this hot out. So shout out to the defense. You guys did your best. It looks like you responded from that blow from the Saints, who looked like the real deal because after just 2 weeks, they've blown out the Panthers, not saying much, but then they ruined the Dallas Cowboys home opener, which I'm kind of happy about. But let's talk about some other stuff before I get to number 9 and coach. It seemed like every team that did have a hiccup in week 1 rebounded a little bit. And a lot of rookie quarterbacks, Jaden Daniels in particular, they showed up and showed out in week 2. Firstly, the Las Vegas Raiders currently putting the Baltimore Ravens on the rope right now, tying up the game with 4 minutes to go and 23 points each. So they rebounded with Gardner Minshew as their starting quarterback after they lost to these 2-0, now 2-0 Los Angeles Chargers. The Washington Commanders and the Giants giving us a show. Sure, they're not supposed to be great teams, but they're at least showing some life, against 2 mid, if not awful teams. Jaden Daniels doing his thing as well on offense, giving his team a chance. The Green Bay Packers, who lost their starting quarterback. They have Malik Willis. I honestly didn't even see him that much on the field. I saw more Anthony Richardson, but they were making a game out of it and beat the Colts in their home opener with a backup quarterback they just got 3 weeks ago. And you got who else you got? Who else came out and showed up? Cleveland Browns, Deshaun Watson, arguably one of the most toxic players in pro sports right now. They came out. Currently, they are beating the Jacksonville Jaguars. They came out. They got coached up. Sam Darnold, again, the starter and quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings that nobody wanted. They wanted J.J. McCarthy. And Sam Darnold just slinging it around. The Vikings are now 2-0. They beat the Christian McCaffrey-less San Francisco 49ers, his former team. So, his 4th team in 8 years. And Sam Darnold slinging it. And let's not mention Baker Mayfield. They are now 2-0. So you got 2 2-0 teams in the NFC South. Baker Mayfield beating everybody's favorite team in the Detroit Lions in Detroit. Baker Mayfield doing his thing. They do not miss Dave Canales. And I'm starting to think now just a little bit, 40% of me is starting to think that this was some sportsmanship within the division that Tampa Bay is like, yeah, take Canales. Yeah, he's so awesome, so good at CrossFit. Offensive genius, quarterback guru, yeah, take him. And then they just continue to make Baker better. Was Dave Canales actually tied to Baker Mayfield being awesome? I don't know. Either way, time will tell with Dave Canales. We're going to have him for a while, fortunately, unfortunately, with the Carolina Panthers. But teams that lost last week seem to have rebounded, been coached up. They found themselves. And whether that was because of team effort or coaching, but it seemed like the Panthers didn't get that. Like right off the gate in the kickoff return penalty. I don't know how many hands to the face penalties we got. I think what should have been a fumble recovery should have been a fumble recovery, but it got overturned by New York, obviously. But it just seems like while the defense looked like it wanted to rebound, it looks like they were determined to play a better game. They really should have had 2 turnovers, in my opinion. The offense just wouldn't let that happen. Which brings me to Bryce Young. Gosh darn it. 84 yards passing, an interception up the middle of the field again. You got this, man. Okay, so I messaged my friend who used to be at NFL Network. Now he's at NBC. I messaged him after week 1. Is Bryce Young salvageable? Is he broken? And he said, unfortunately, yes. This is after week 1. We already remember that game. Awful. At least he ran for a touchdown. Panthers got shut out here, in the end zone at least. You gave him the offensive weapons. You did. You still have Adam Thielen, who is his safety blanket. Deontay Johnson, where's that guy been? He's around. He's open. You got Jatavian Sanders. You will have Jonathan Brooks eventually, if you even want to put him out there, if it's safe for him to do it. And then you have Xavier Leggett. You got the 2 interior offensive linemen who are both playing. The offensive line is better. You have a quarterback-friendly coach, and he looks even more insecure in week 2. You thought he would get all the bad demons out there. That was a preseason game, right? For all the Bryce Young apologists, yours included. So you know what? He didn't really play much in the preseason. We got to eat that. That didn't happen. Week 1 was a preseason game. Week 2, that can't be a preseason game. You have to know what's up. You get coached up. You do your practice stuff. You get your head in the books and the iPad, whatever, and you get out there and you execute in the home opener, the 30th anniversary. You got all the best Panthers of all time, all the alumni. You bring them there. The baby was in the house, and you stink up the joint like that. It looks like again you're confused. And the broadcast, they just kept talking about it, how quarterbacks can sometimes use the ground as leverage. They have their feet firmly planted onto the ground to throw harder. Be more decisive, have a bit more zip on the ball. Bryce Young is continuously on his toes. And I guess when he was in Alabama and when he was at Mater Dei, he's always being the point guard. He's moving around. He has to bounce around. Just trying to, as he said before in the draft process, or maybe when after he was drafted by the Carolina Panthers, he has to move around to find the angles to actually throw through the offensive line without hitting in the back of the head. So maybe that's why he's always on his toes. But with that, you have less power in your throw, which is why that could be easily picked off if you make the wrong decision. But he looked even more lost in week 2 than he did in week 1. There was a scramble to the bootleg to his left, and he got eventual sack. Adam Thielen lost his mind onto the sideline, ripped his helmet off, yelling. And then apparently after that, David Newton said there was some yelling going on the sidelines with Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen, and Bryce Young. There was one point when the CBS cameras caught Bryce Young, who actually looked angry for the first time, which is not a bad thing, kind of cussing out, it looked like, or having a firm conversation with Taylor Moton. And you just saw Taylor Moton listening to it like this, and then you just saw Taylor Moton go like, what? It looked like, I wish I had a lip reader there, or at least they kept the cameras on Moton for a little bit. But I would have loved to have known what Bryce Young was telling one of the longest tenured Panthers on this team. I think 100 consecutive starts for number 72. Maybe because he eventually got beat by his guy as Bryce was booting to his left, and then Moton eventually got beat because Bryce Young was running with the ball forever, even though Adam Thielen was wide open. He could have had him. I'm really starting to think that the height's a thing, and he just cannot adapt. Because, in my head, as a Bryce Young apologist, SEC, you got NFL caliber guys on the offensive and defensive line, right? So 6'3", 6'3", doesn't really matter. It doesn't make a difference. But it seems like 6'3" plus the speed, plus the complexities of the offense, or I don't know, whatever. And, I've always understood that in the NFL, well, in the NCAA, open is this. You're open. In the NFL, wide receivers almost like this. Boom, you're open. That's when you got to find it. And maybe it's still too fast for him. Maybe because he has to find the proper angle, not to get a ball batted away. It's too fast to do that and get the open receiver because it's open for that long. I'm not sure. But in that one particular play, Bryce Young showed that he can't make plays right now when they need him the most. And even in a losing effort, I think the Colts have lost this game. Anthony Richardson, at least, is a threat as a runner, as a thrower. You have to respect both. There's one point that everyone was completely covered, and then he just booted it for like 20, 25 yards, it looked like. He could do that. Even Will Levis can do that in a losing effort, I think. I think they're losing. I'm doing this now because I have to get this off my chest. I can't wait for all the 1 p.m. games to wrap up to let you know how I feel. But even Will Levis using his feet. So Bryce Young, at one point, I think it was in the second series or at halftime, that even guys like Joe Person, who covers his team every single day, he follows Bryce Young from the moment before he was drafted to today. And he said to keep the locker room together and to save Bryce Young's confidence, do you bring in Andy Dalton? Now, I don't know what that would do to his actual confidence. Maybe that'll shoot his confidence to the point where you can't bring him back. Because when do you bring him back? If you bench him now in week 2 in the home opener, 30th anniversary of this team, and you put in the Red Rocket and he lights it up, you're never bringing Bryce Young back. Not saying Andy Dalton could do it. He could be just as bad. Or he could be Sam Darnold. He could be Joe Flacco. You never know. You never know. Maybe you never bring Bryce Young back if that happens. And then thus you don't bring his confidence back. Or Andy Dalton sucks. After week 3, you bring Bryce Young back, and then he comes out there and stinks it up again. Now what? Even after a week off, even 2 weeks off, miss game 3, come back in week 4, and you still suck. Now what's that going to do to your confidence? But Dave Cannell said post-game that he's sticking with Bryce Young. And he needs to get a clear evaluation of this guy. And I understand that. I totally understand that. But what are you going to do if you realize that he's not the guy? Like, there's no one who is draft eligible right now that you want to take a run at. This is a reportedly weak quarterback class. Quinn Ewers is out right now with an injury. Don't know what that is right now. Arch Manning lit it the F up with like a 72-yard scamper as well. He's not eligible until 2026. A little bit more on that. Jalen Milroe, I don't think he's going to be a first-round pick. I hope he is. I think it'd be great. Cam Ward, is he the best out of a weak bunch? Like, how would he compare to other previous years? I don't know if I'd want to double dip as him as a number 1 overall quarterback. I think if we were to actually suck and be the first overall pick again, get a team that is thirsty for a quarterback, a la the Raiders, the Giants, trade down, get your defensive players, get your Pierce, get your Harold Perkins. I'm going to keep plugging Perkins as much as I can. Get your cornerback. Do that to go opposite side J.C. Horn. Get your left tackle, because I don't know what's up with Ike Ekwonu. I never liked him with the knock knees. But I would do that. Build the team, and then you wait for 2026. Maybe Arch Manning does the whole Eli Manning and holds out and doesn't want to play for the San Diego Chargers and wants to play for the New York Giants instead. Ended up working out for him. I could see him coaching up his nephew like that as well. But it's gonna the fuel that Bryce Young is not the guy is only gonna be more fired up now after today, because he looked somehow worse because you had another week of practice and install and you still showed out at home like that. And it was bad. Dave Cannell says he's going to stick with him. See how that goes. Like, at least they kind of ran the ball. They rushed Chuba 10 times. Miles Sanders got his fair amount as well. Leading receiver was Tommy Tremble. Welcome back, Tommy. Chuba Hubbard looked good. I'd say keep doing that kind of stuff. But even when we do pass, when it's the opportune time, Bryce looks unsure. Even the commentator said he's jumping when throwing screen passes. That is not, it just doesn't fill me with confidence. And it's really sad. That's why I only have Cam Newton out here. He's my guy. But yeah, we'll find out. It was super brutal. Panthers now 0-2. No surprise, not a blowout. Better on defense. Still going to be susceptible to the run all year long. If you're going to be betting on the over on rushing for any opposition against the Carolina Panthers, do it. You'll make some money. Bryce Young, I think it was week 4 last year when I had the episode, make Bryce Young the first overall pick, because that's where I thought the direction we were going. I'll say what to do with the first overall pick if we're 0-4 by week 4 this time around. In the meantime, let me know your reactions below. Appreciate the support. See you guys later.